is going on, MPC people? My name is JustInCaseD, and welcome back to your power rankings for weeks 3 and 4 of the Western Conference. I am joined today by two different coaches. We've got Will.
What's up?
And then we've got the boy, the voice, the Mimo.
How y'all doing?
People, we all know who that voice is with his one major quote. Alright, let's get this rolling. Alright, so we've got a very interesting power ranking chart this week, as I see a lot of differing opinions, especially in the bottom, which is very surprising. So let's get right into it, starting off with number 12, which is really divided. So we'll go with the more general consensus. We'll start off with Mandy and the Gainesville Gudras, as it's more generally lower than the other two. What do you...
The reason of it this low is, wasn't her win did not play?
Her loss was a did not play.
Oh, her loss, okay.
And her win was over Harley, which also is a very low team, so...
Alright. Yeah, just how I went about my rankings was, like, I just looked at, how they performed these 2 weeks, and I'm gonna explain why I have who I have at 16th, because...
You mean 12th?
The 12th, yeah. I'm just so used to 16 person. The person I have at 12th, they won like their week 1, but then they didn't win after that, and so I have her a little bit higher because she won in these 2 weeks.
That's a fair argument, yeah.
Yeah.
Alright, yeah, I had her a little bit there. I do agree with you, the consensus that the week 1 person was definitely lower than her particularly, but I understand the sentiment for why Mima put her at the bottom, just because the only person she beat was the lowest record differential person, I think, at this current time, so it makes sense. So not anything else really much to say here other than, Mandy, I still strongly believe you should change up your draft. I think Feeney is something you should really consider trading, since it's such a hindrance to the team. And that's all really I have to say about this particular person. Anybody else got last thoughts?
You know?
No, not really.
Yeah.
Nope. Go ahead and move on to the next one, bro.
Alright, next one we have, more generally also in the consensus, at the number 11 and 12 spot, we have the Houston Dynamos, coached by Kyle. Kyle has not been doing well. He won his first week match, I believe it was, and then he hasn't won a game since then.
And that's why I put him last, because when I made my list, what I did was I just went by as a win by now. So the way I went about it was, through your week 4, then you're higher on my week 3 or week 4 power rankings. So that's...
Yeah, that's how I have a few of my middle pack people place, based on how more recent their win is, or how they're improving their play style in a sense of way. So yeah, I do get the sentiment for why Kyle is pretty low on this scale. I also have him pretty low at 11. Mimo had him a bit higher at number 9, but he's still pretty generally down here. So as far as how he was playing, I think he just wasn't bringing the most optimal sets. I don't think he's playing Dragonite perfectly well. I think he needs to get more aggressive with it. Anybody else?
You want to weigh in?
Huh?
You got anything else to say about Kyle?
Yeah, man. Hold on, man. So I agree with Justin about the whole Dragonite thing. I feel like you're not using it to its full potential at all. A single weakness policy set come out yet. And I'm just saying, like, you gotta do better. You might end up winless.
Yeah, because his draft around it is pretty solid. He just needs to get more aggressive, because right now I'm looking at his teams. He's been bringing mostly Pseudo-Stalks, like a Tentacruel, Skarm, Swampert core, most of the years he's been relying on, but really not really using Dragonite to an extent at all. He's been playing Lucario fairly well, but other than that... Anyways, I don't really have anything else left to say about Kyle. Just try to make some improvements, bud. We still believe in ya. And moving on to Kyle's buddy, who is also generally in the lower senses of down here, Harley and the Chelsea Swablues.
This was also, like, for the bottom three, like I said, I based it on how recent their wins were, and so, I actually did not watch the replay of Mandy and Harley. I might have switched them otherwise. So I just saw that they both have the same record, and I'm like, okay, both of their wins were like, win is probably so that's why, and that's why he's slightly higher, but if his win was in week 1 or week 2, then I probably should have put Mandy higher, but...
I mean, as of this time, Harley doesn't have a win, because week 5 has not arrived yet, so that's why I have him at the bottom.
I didn't know that. I just looked at the doc when I...
Yeah, I get you there.
Okay, then I would have... So...
Some little spoilers there for next week, but either way, yeah, Harley's... at the current first 4 weeks, I don't think he was going in with the right kind of prep for the game, or not really... well, because he played against... He's had some tough opponents, though. He played against Lowe, who is really good, and then who else did he play against? I forget off the top of my head. Was it... Oh, he played against Mandy. That was Mandy's one win. Yeah, I think he definitely did not play around Mandy's threats well enough. He definitely had potential to. We did some mocks, and he had good odds to, but he just kind of did not care how he played, I think, his Fortress, so that cost him big time. And honestly, you've got room to improve, Harley. I don't think it's a draft fault. I think you just keep playing harder, and you'll get up there. I don't want to rip on you, buddy. Young Mimo?
I don't know. I have him at 8 because I just think that he didn't lose as bad as everybody else.
Yeah, but at the same time, though, he hasn't won a game as of yet, though. So, whether it's the level of losing, he hasn't won.
He's the last
My rankings are based purely on this week, though, so I mean, that's probably why I have him so high.
Yeah. Alright.
Well, I mean, he's gonna get there, so.
He's going to get...
Because I'm just looking at the list now, and I'm seeing Justin and I have very similar opinions. We have like one more that's not the same, and then the rest are the same. So...
Yeah, but the bottom 8 honestly fascinates me because it's so like jumbled, which usually isn't the case. Usually the bottom teams are always like in the same thought process, but this is the most jumbled bottom 8 power rankings I've ever seen.
Yeah, so... I mean, it's nice to see we agree on some of the same ones, though.
Yeah, I do. We do have a general consensus. Like, there are still clusters where we all have a general idea of where they are.
Yeah.
And with that, I think we're done with Harley here. So we'll move on to, I think the next lowest average would be Destin and the Mobile Viewers.
Yeah, so... like, Destin's season has been kind of up and down. He's got some good wins, but at the same time, like, his 2 losses were against people we also had lower, and so...
Yeah.
Where I'm at them.
And one of his wins was a do not play, or did not play, so...
Yeah.
Like, I feel like he hasn't had a good showing of his usual skill so far this season, so unfortunately, we gotta place him down here for now until he can really jump out of that rut and show off some of that potential. Because he's got a very interesting and, I say, a pretty good offensive draft, but he just hasn't had a chance to shine yet.
Don't do it when we battle. That's all I'm saying.
What'd you say, Mimo?
Show off your skill when we battle. That's all I'm saying.
Also, just want to take a minute to say rip Earth Power Crocodile, which was already a misset by accident from the Battle Frontier thing, whatever, and then also gave him the Spadef drop, giving the Bisharp Defiant boost.
Oh shit!
Double rip. Oh, like that was entertaining. Alright, Destin, I believe in you, buddy. Just gotta pull yourself out of it. Then I think, rounding out the bottom, we have, for the most part, we have Chabs and the Winnipeg Golurks.
Yeah.
What was his
The
game?
reason I kind of put him this low is his wins were against Destin, and I forgot who the other one was, but
He beat Carlos pretty soundly. Like, Sub Zygarde was a really good bring against his team.
Alright. Just his game versus me is what kind of low, but at the same time, my team is very, very fat. It's hard for anything to break it.
Yeah, because honestly, his most competent breakers being like set up Zygarde and then Blacephalon, you kind of had answers to. Like, Blissey doesn't give a crud what Blacephalon does, and then you had Donphan that didn't care what Zygarde did, and Balloon for that matter.
I tried on Donphan too, so
Like, he just
kind of why follow for me. Just I didn't have to play to preserve differential there. I just kind of, okay, I get up toxic spikes and then my team just walls him, and that's exactly what happened. And so that's why I have him this low, because my game plans usually don't pan out that simply.
Yeah, he just did not have a good time that game.
uh,
Honestly, also some of his prep was a bit questionable. Like, I think he's kind of into. I've noticed a similar pattern where he's relying on setup Zygarde. Like, he brought like Momentum Weezing to try to get Zygarde in. And while it is a good set, like setup Dragon Dance Sub Zygarde is good, you just can't be bringing the same set over and over again, because people will predict it much easier and they'll have better prep for it.
You also can't Memento a Blissey. Like, out of all the things, you should have saved that joint.
Yeah, I gotta agree there.
I mean, I pointed that out in the chat. Why? Why I don't play for differential, but we'll get to that when we get to me.
Yes. So anyways, yeah, Chabs, I feel like you should try to expand your creative building process. I think maybe experiment with something other than Sub Dragon Dance. Maybe Coil, Banded, Zygarde is also just really good. Obviously, you just go by yourself matchup. It shouldn't just be because we're telling you to be creative, but I feel like expanding the different possibilities it can do can really help make you a bit more threatening to other people.
Yeah.
Alright, and with that, we're done with the bottom 8 teams, so we'll move up to our second cluster. Number 7 we've already covered with Golurk, but the other 2 are the Oklahoma Electivires.
So base this on who they played. So the person I have above them is one of their losses. So that's kind of why I have them there.
That did play a factor, yeah.
Yeah.
The thing is, the same thing I talked about with Chabs also applies here. For the most part, Carlos is really reliant on the cross, like Calm Mind Necrozma to do most of sweeping. Obviously, he beat Destin without Necrozma, but even still, I feel like most of his other games so far have been try Calm Mind Necrozma to get in and win, which is why people are bringing phasers against him and really struggled versus Takio, because he brought, I think, 2 phasers and a taunter, so Necro had no chance.
Yeah.
So honestly, I feel like same principle applies here. I think the creative bubble needs to kind of expand to make yourself more threatening. So that's my main.
Like, where's the Carlos that used to run Swords Dance Rock Polish?
That's a good question, yeah. And especially since Photon Geyser can go either way, you could easily run that kind of Necrozma.
Or like I remember when he ran like some weird stealth rock shenanigans. I swear he knows how to use that mon.
He does. Like, I think I've seen... I don't remember what sets he did past seasons. I know he's famous for his Crow sets, though.
Oh, yeah, he is.
So, yeah, I feel like he's getting... I feel like so far right now, he's in that period where people are starting to figure him out. Like, people are gonna bring multiple Roar Mons, multiple Taunt Mons to deal with the Necrozma. And since that's pretty much his biggest threat alongside Snorlax, who struggles from the same issue, Roar Mons, Taunt Mons, I feel like he needs to start really thinking outside the box if he wants to stay ahead of his competition.
Yeah.
Well, we're all waiting for the mid-Carlos turnaround anyway.
That's true, yeah. We're waiting for the mid-Carlos turnaround. We're also waiting for that Harley turnaround, where he makes that playoff run every time.
Yeah.
Alright. Anybody else got something to say about Carlos?
I'm good.
Alright. So moving on, we have more universally at number 6, we have Takio, the Milan Bisharps. People he played was Chabs, and who was his other opponent? Oh yeah, and Carlos. Speaking of the devil. I feel like this is... The reason I put him a good bit higher than a lot of people on this list is because I feel like the improvement was much bigger between Week 3 and 4. Week 3, he really just allowed himself to get set up on by Chabs pretty easily. He didn't really think outside the box. But then Week 4, when he was playing Carlos, he really started thinking ahead. He brought Mons that were really... took into depth into what Carlos's team does and took advantage of them. So I feel like he had a much bigger improvement gap.
Yeah, I agree. Versus Chavs, that was kind of rough, but versus Carlos, he just really stepped up his game.
So yeah, that was definitely noted by all of us here, I think, because while technically he could be lower on the teching, I think the improvement factor was enough to move him up.
Yeah.
Like, he had a really good game this week. Really good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Alright, I feel like we covered him pretty sufficiently enough. We'll move on now to number 5, being the Texas Raikus and Bash. Very interesting, I gotta say. I believe he won his first game with not much difficulty, if I'm not mistaken. Who'd he play?
He
Who'd he play?
beat me Week 3.
Oh, did he play you Week 3? I forget how they...
Yeah, he played me Week 3. And that's why I have him so high. Because otherwise he'd be a lot lower if he did not beat me. But he did beat me, so that's why he's that high.
That makes sense, yeah.
Mm.
Though there was a major upset though, because Mimo over here, you put him down.
Yeah.
Like, you did the work, man.
I don't know why y'all thought I was gonna lose that game, bro.
Like, I kind of looked at the matchup and I saw Zero Aura. He generally has just a good matchup, and I didn't like the odds against the team, but apparently he didn't prep for Conk at all, and Conk put in some good work.
Yeah.
Like,
Conk.
Like, I can't... Sorry, continue.
I just said Conk just completely wrecked him.
Yeah.
I are kind of in a similar situation where we're in so many leagues right now. It's kind of like a cluster. Who has what, and then we just forget about something, and that's what ends up screwing us over.
Yeah. Like, I remember we are, if you listen to, what was it called, the Pick'em show, we didn't put Mimo, unfortunately we didn't give you high odds, but at the same time we kind of discussed how certain mons would make him an impact. We all thought that impact mon was going to be Darmanitan, but Conk was the big boy.
Yeah.
And there's some interesting things for Darmanitan coming out.
Yeah. Like, obviously Bash, I think, didn't predict, do a good job, like, he didn't try to predict Sky Strike on Lando potentially, which I think you should always at least scout for once. Other stuff on the team, I feel like he didn't deal with Ryu Nicholas well at all. Like, he should have gone into Mandibuzz a lot sooner on every time it tried to come in.
But all I wanted was the competitive boost, in all honesty.
On Milotic?
Yes.
That's a good set.
Yeah.
It really is.
Oh boy. But yeah, this was really rough for Bash.
I saw that game and I saw no Flame Orb on Milotic, and I'm like, oh yeah, Mimo's running competitive.
Oh man. But anyways, yeah, other than that upset, Bash has been playing generally fairly well, and I feel like he's still in a very good position. Just needs to make sure he doesn't overlook any critical mons. Anybody else? Alright. Mimo, why don't you tell us about your last 2 weeks? Your next, buddy.
Okay, so week 3, I don't even remember what happened because I spent a good amount of time prepping, but freaking Tauros is just on all of my hard work. Serious? And then week 4, I was procrastinating and I was like, oh geez, I need a team. I looked at it and I was like, I think this will do. Ended up using the same team twice.
Wait, that was the same team twice?
Yeah, it was. Alright. Next time I'll prep.
I mean, that won you the game.
Yeah.
I mean, what... Bruh.
Way better. I think I should have saved my Z-Lando for Yuxi instead of the dang Tangrowth.
I personally think you used it at the right time. Disposing of Tangrowth is just a major problem on, and he might have tried to play around it later if you had let it stay around and saw it was a setup set. So I think removing it at the key time that you did was perfect.
Yeah, and apparently, like, you didn't really need to change much to win that game because it looked like you prepped for that really well, so it just means how powerful that.
Are you sure you didn't prep for...
You don't have to change it to win a certain matchup.
Yeah, Mimo's living one step ahead.
Just like you guys do, but part of the reason is his losses were to me and Spoink, which both of us have been playing really well. So after that, Nemo's just been like really proving himself, and that's why I have him at 4.
Yeah. I think this is the only one I think we all agree on. Mimo, you are the number 4 man.
Nemo for playoffs.
Hey man, I believe in the cause. You got a really good shot this season.
Because I actually have a good team. That's hilarious.
And
look, you lost to 2 of the top 3. That's nothing to get yourself down about.
especially going into late season, since then you won't have to deal with them in the late season, so you'll have a much easier chance to make the playoff run.
Yeah, because you already played against 2 of the top 3 teams, so.
All right, Adam.
Actually, we played against Bash, and who else did you play against so far, Mimo?
Good question.
You played.
Dash, Spoink,
Played
the
Bash.
Texas White Food. I think I played against.
That's Bash.
What's the other team? The Houston Harlots.
Dynamos. I think that's Kyle.
Yeah, the Houston Dynamos.
Yeah, you played against 3 of my top 5, so I'd say you're doing pretty well.
Yeah, you're doing good, Mimo.
No, that's first.
Alright, now we move on to the top 3 teams. Rounding out the more universal, I'd say more dominant number 3, we have You Will. So, want to take us through your last 2 weeks?
I don't really want to talk about week 3, but okay, so week 3, I'm just like probably gonna lose this anyway. So you know what? I don't really have time to build this week. I'm just gonna bring Dunsparce because Bash has been scared of Dunsparce in the past because Bash and I have known each other a really long time. So I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna bring Dunsparce and hopefully I can get a Dunsparce sweep. But as I suspected, there will work through my team, and yeah, that was that game. And then week 4, that was where Chabs just could not break me, and I had fun that game, but I don't think he did.
Yeah,
Because
when you're facing Blissey, Toxapex, a little Impersion stall, I don't know if you can have fun with that.
I have Celesteela too, but I didn't even
Like
bring
a
it.
fighting type to me.
I mean, he had a Glade, so I don't think a fighting type was the solution.
Fighting
I
type
had
gives him
Toxapex.
ghost coverage, I guess. I know that's what he needed.
Yeah, honestly, he needs some outside the box thinking, because like he didn't have an answer for Scarf Cure for the most part, because Rotom Wash wasn't taking those hits. Like, again, Chaps just needs to get back into the out of predictive pattern to get ahead of the game.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else you want to say, Will, before we go into your section?
Yeah, so the thing that I said, that I could have played better in what we were talking about with Chad, I just don't play for differential, because the last time I tried to preserve differential, I got reverse swept by a Cloyster. So I'm just like, nah, I'll take a win any way I can get it, even if it means having to sack off a couple of mons. Like, I could have preserved, but
Yeah,
I see a window to win, I will take it, even if that means lowering my differential.
I agree. Unless differential matters at the very end of the season, like for a playoff spot, you should always go for a win first over it.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, you were up against a Rotom. What was it gonna do? All you need to do was switch into Bremen. It would have made your life so much easier.
Yeah. That's true, but let's see go down because I just wanted to guarantee my win there.
Yeah, it's just a safer play to go. There's no harm in
Yeah.
it. Especially since differential ladder is quote-unquote less this season thanks to Noah's, what's it called, head-to-head setup, whatever he's got going on. So,
That means we keep Bash out of the top 3. Good to know.
I don't know how I feel about that system, but
There's no doing this time. Oh my goodness.
I don't know. It's basically differential doesn't barely matters anymore. It's mostly based on who beats who, and that's how its formula puts the team's ranking.
Okay, so he finally got his round robin.
This is really his round robin theory. We've all been spun into it.
In the TTM tournaments do that now too, and like they put head-to-head over differential, just easier with tiebreakers that way.
Mm-hmm.
I can see why Noah did that.
It's just so weird to look at it. Like, you could have like already 20 differential above your opponent, but if they beat you, they just win.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know. We'll see how that goes towards. It really affects the end season, but we'll move on now. We can't get too wrapped up into this. Honestly, we could talk about either, since they technically both average out the same way, because well, one person has low down at 3, but then Spoink has 2, and then 1. I guess we'll talk about Spoink because Low has the higher differential or record right now, so we'll go into him first.
So, Spoink, ever since that little screw up versus me, Spoink has just been playing amazingly. Like, Spoink kind of messed up versus me, and I was really fortunate that happened. But otherwise, he's just been playing amazingly well. Won week 3 and week 4. Like Mimo said, he just bashed him with that Tauros. And yeah, Spoink's just been playing exceptionally well from me. Like, that's how I see it.
Yeah, and it's really shocking too, because I'm not gonna lie, when we looked at this team initially in post-draft power rankings, we did not think that good of it, just because it seems like it just lacks synergy. But Spoink as a player just turns the whole style into... It really works out well for him, so...
No, one thing I want to comment is Spoink made his team a little worse, and I was happy with it, but he traded me Blissey for Dunsparce, and...
Well...
That makes my team way harder to break. Like, my team had a certain weakness, which it doesn't really have anymore, but... yeah, that's the one I see on Spoink's part for week 3 and week 4, but other than that... Yeah.
I mean, here at MPC, we always get there's one broken transaction every season, whether it be Stack Attacker for Salamence, Machamp for Jirachi, fucking... This season it might just be Dunsparce for Blissey.
Which trade did Jake do when he was trying to throw?
Celesteela for Swellow. It was so bad it got blocked. It was... Either way, though, yeah, I definitely think that will help your team out. But knowing Spoink, for some reason, he could probably... I have a feeling he's going to pull off some kind of unholy sweep with Dunsparce at some point.
Yeah.
Alright, so he's got a bar to jump over even higher, because it's already set high as it is, because he's already doing so well. So I'm looking forward to seeing how he plays out his next few games.
Yeah.
Alright, and lastly, and I think most people expected this to be at the top, but Mimo actually put him at number 3. We have Low. So, Mimo, why'd you put him at number 3?
Let me look. Is that the non-cotton Malamar?
Yes.
Did Malamars, but yes.
Is that the team with the Thunders?
No.
I think has Thunders, I believe.
That's the team with Latias, Ferrothor, and Gliscor.
Oh. I probably didn't really watch the match and saw that he didn't have a 6-0.
He didn't wheelchair. Put him to 3.
Yeah. Wheelchair, so that's unfortunate.
Yeah. I gotta give props to Low, though, because he's making Comfey do so much work.
I'm so upset because I wanted Comfy on my draft. I'm on that I got sniped super hard of in the draft. Because, like, I kept reworking my plan, but I got Comfy sniped, like, the same round I was planning to draft it, and so I wanted it to do that work for me, but he's definitely showing that it's broken.
I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. I honestly super underestimated Comfy going into the season. Like I've never had a positive impression of it, but after looking at what Lowe is doing with it, I'm having a change of heart.
I've been playing too much to have a bad impression of it.
He is one of those mons that's very matchup dependent. If it has a bad matchup, it doesn't do anything. But if it has a good matchup, then it automatically wins. Like you have to prep for it or else you lose to it.
That's true. I don't know if it's, I wouldn't say it's as polar as that, but yeah.
Yeah.
It definitely is one of those moms that deserve your attention.
Oh, for sure.
Not something you can just overlook.
Because the priority draining kiss in general is just so annoying, especially if you have something that's so low.
And like it also gets any priority recovery moves, so you can get things like taunt, like calm mind, and just set up in front of a lot of things that can't one-shot it. Because it has decent bulk as well.
That's true, yeah.
It doesn't get priority taunt, does it?
No.
It doesn't get priority taunt, but it gets priority recovery.
Yeah, well, that's all it needs.
As far as else, like he's been playing his Rain fairly well. Let's see, I'm just speeding through his games to see if there was anything excess notable. His Comfey was the main star. Then his second game was, oh yeah, versus Harley. Yeah, Comfey stole the show. It's so funny that we're like the main central focus of a discussion is Comfey.
Yeah. It's not the player that makes the team, it's the comfy.
Hey man, that's the laurel wreath you put on your champions' heads. That's he's already won. That's just the sign of it. So good job, Lo. You're doing really well so far. Let's see if you can keep it up and be the first undefeated MPC contender, possibly. We've had a few close shots at it. I fucking hate Gastrodon for ruining my chances season 2. So the hopefully... Huh?
That was no
Still has to
weather.
play my season, and he still has yet to play Mimo too.
That's true. He still has a couple good contenders in a way to...
Us will take this man down.
Someone stop him. Alright, so yeah, and I think that is going to be the power rankings. We made it through. We are once again...
Usually these things take an hour.
Mm-hmm. How much did this video take so far? Not bad. We powered through at 38. I feel like we just kind of cut to the chase this time around, because sometimes we get... When it's usually like me, Jake, and Noah, we kind of circle talk a little bit, but we were more direct to the point. Which I kind of like that. We don't need to have everything be obnoxiously like an hour or two.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, I would usually have a average list up of all the rankings, but because of time constraints, I may just throw one in post-editing and show one now, but either way, that is the PRs. Thank you guys so much for watching. Shoutouts to both Will and Mimo for joining us here today as our guest co-stars and analysts here. Chirp.
Wait, hold on, what?
Does it really keep cutting up for you?
This
Oh my lord.
everything. And that's the power.
No, Mimo, you cut out. I couldn't even finish the power rankings. No. Mimo, come back. No. Mimo, come back.
Bro, stop laughing at me, bro. It's not my fault I got bad internet.
Bruh, we just need the words.
Hating on your internet.
And that's the power rankings.
Hey.